Perfect. This is episode 20. Verbs in motion. We're live. Let me just send a link to the fellows on Facebook. All right. Brilliant. Okay. So, welcome everyone. If you're here, this is an Italian practice session. We do these live sessions so that we can practice our Italian. I'm here in case you have any questions, comments. Together, each session we try to focus on a particular topic and practice that topic. But obviously, any questions, any comments, any suggestions are always welcome. Whether it's in chat or whether you're seeing this as a recorded video, you can always post a comment or DM me. Let me know if you have any doubts, any problems with regard to Italian, spoken Italian, written Italian. We tend to spend about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, sometimes even longer than that. But I want to keep these sessions as short as possible so that we can be concise and, to the point and keep the focus. So, Amedeo, buongiorno a tutti, buongiorno. Let's give people a couple of minutes to turn up and say hi in chat. It's important to keep these sessions as dynamic and interactive as possible. From my experience and also based on what I see in students, the more interactive something is, the better learning outcomes tend to be. Mark, ciao. Ciao a te. Come stai? All right. Today the weather has been incredible. I think it changed about 14 times. Right. Okay, I have something, I have prepared something in case nobody has a question. I would like to talk about verbs of motion today. Molto bene, bene. It's always exciting to do a little bit of Italian, even if it's just for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I think it's very healthy to keep the brain cells to do with Italian activated week after week. So guys, this is a good time for you if you have any questions to post in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to start with the topic I prepared in about 1 minute. Siete pronti? Siamo pronti? Is everyone ready? And as we wait, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so yet. And okay, we can get started. Probably more people will join later on. Let's see. All right, so as I said, today I would like to speak and talk about verbs of motion. Verbs of motion are a little bit more interesting than normal verbs because they tend to behave differently whenever we talk about something in the past simple. And they well, we'll see how they act differently. I think we touched upon this a few times when we talk about the past simple, for example. Remember, in Italian, we don't have the past simple, or we do have it, but we don't use it. We tend to use the present perfect instead. So instead of I went, I went to the supermarket, we tend to say I have been, or I have gone. I have gone to the supermarket. Even if it was, 3 days ago or 3 weeks ago, and the action is completely ended. It's definitely ended. It ended some time ago in the past, but we still refer to it as, as if he hadn't finished. Right. So let's cook something. So we have some examples here. These examples, to go, to return, or to come back, to run, to jump, to fall, to fly, these are all verbs of motion. Of course, the most common verbs of motion are go and come back or return. So these are two verbs that must absolutely be learned, right? If you don't know these verbs, you have to learn them. Try to remember them. We're definitely going to remember them after this session. And these other verbs are also very useful. To run, to jump, to fall, to fly, they're common verbs, right? So you can't get away without learning them if you want to speak fluently. So what's the translation of to go? What's to go in Italian? Does anyone know? Feel free to post it in the chat. Chat, do you know? So the verb is, I'm going to ask you more questions later on. Let's start by andare. Andare. So this is a very useful verb. Andare. Andare. Right? Andare a Roma, andare a Milano. Common verb. To return. Now this is much easier. Ritornare. Ritornare. I realize now that they're quite difficult to pronounce because of the R sound. If you don't know how to pronounce the R sound, we have a lesson specifically on this in our course. But you can figure out how to do it anyways. And if you do know already, then that's brilliant. If you don't, you can still use the English native R, ritornare. It doesn't sound good, but it sounds good enough. So people will understand. Hopefully. Ritornare, to return. Next, we have to run. To run correre. Correre. So we are going to use these verbs in this session to practice. But remember, these are all common verbs. Correre. Jump. Saltare. To jump. Saltare. Saltare. To fall. Cadere. 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 3 syllables. Last but not least, volare. volare, volare. Mi piace volare. I like flying. Non so volare. I don't know how to fly. Non so volare. Spoiler. If there aren't any comments or question, then let's try some examples. We can try some examples with these very verbs. And the first example is, she goes to the supermarket. How would you translate that? Keep in mind, supermarket is supermercato. 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 I would like chat to try, she goes to the supermarket. And if you don't know how to conjugate goes, this is a conjugation of the verb to go, or the verb andare. Any attempt? It's not very difficult, is it? I'll give you 30 more seconds, and then if I don't have any takers, I'm going to tell you the answer. Right, so she goes to the supermarket. So let's think about it. She is, well, she and goes go together, right? She goes. So if we look at this table, we see that if we use va, which is the third person singular, we already have the meaning she goes. She goes. Va. Va a to the, in this case, supermercato. Supermercato is masculine because it ends in O. So we have il supermercato. Va a il supermercato. We can mix or join, compound these two, well, the preposition and the article into a complex preposition, al. Va al supermercato. So she goes to the supermarket. Va al supermercato. So far, so good. We don't have any, there's nothing interesting happening besides the fact that to go is a very irregular verb. So we can see the conjugations here. They look nuts, right? They look crazy. You have vado, which has nothing to do with andare. Because I would expect ando, andi, anda, andiamo, andate, andano. This is what I would expect from andare. If I only studied the rules without knowing this particular verb conjugations, I would just say ando, andi, anda, andiamo, andate, andano. But that's not the case. We have vado, so it's a different root vad. Then we see the same root in you, he or she, and then third person plural. So this is the only thing that's weird, the conjugation itself. Beyond that, the sentence makes sense. Va al supermercato. Let's try to change this sentence so that instead of the present simple, it's in the past. So what happens if I want to say, she went to the supermarket? Maybe someone asks, where is she? Okay. Where is she? Dove è? Right? Dov'è? Or we can also, because we have two E's, we can put the apostrophe. Dov'è? Where is she? We can reply, well, we can say, she went to the supermarket. Now, does anybody want to try and translate this one? Bear in mind what we said initially about the past tense, but it's always good to attempt. Okay, so Mark has written vai al supermercato. Okay, that would be second person singular, right? So Mark wrote vai al supermercato. So this is you, right? You go to the supermarket. And then va al supermercato. Exactly. That's correct. Yep. So now we want to make it in the past. Any attempts? S'ha andato al supermercato. Okay. I'm curious about the first word. Or a. Oh, okay. I think ha andato al supermercato. So this comes from Mark. Mark, am I correct in assuming that you meant H instead of S at the beginning? Because I think that S doesn't tell me anything. Anyways, let me know if I'm wrong. So here's the tricky part, and here's the main point that I want to communicate in this video. When we deal with verbs of motion, there is a change that has to happen here. So this ha andato would be perfect, would normally be the correct answer. For example, she listened to music. To listen to is ascoltare. So ha ascoltato la musica. Perfect. This is what happens normally. We use the present perfect, and the present perfect means I have listened to music. So instead of she listened to music, in Italian we translate She has listened to music. So we use the verb has, the verb to have, to make the present perfect. So this is what normally happens in Italian whenever we have the past simple, except for verbs of motion. In this case, with verbs of motion, we use the verb to be as auxiliary instead of the verb to have. So instead of ha andato, we have to say è andato al supermercato. And careful, because we have a female in this case. So è andata, she went to the supermarket. Lei è andata al supermercato. So this is the correct version. Oops, no, that's wrong. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Yeah. È andata al supermercato. So this is correct. Does it make sense? So before we continue, I have a few other examples. Now we can just go through 3-4 more examples, and that's going to be it for today. Do you understand? Does anybody understand this? Does anybody not understand this? If so, I can just explain it again, or maybe I can find a different angle. If you give me an example or something that's, that makes you confused in any way. So I'll pause for a minute. Okay, Mark says, yeah, sorry, è andato al supermercato. Exactly. È. So in this case, we use è. And it would be the same for any verb of motion. All right. Brilliant. I'll give you 2 more minutes to think of a question, do some breathing exercises, and hit the thumbs up button. And then we're going to cover 3 or 4 more examples, super quick and super easy. It's the same logic, right? It's the same logic. We have to be careful when we go from present simple to past simple. And it's in quotes because we don't actually translate with the past simple in Italian. Right. And from a certain point of view, it makes things easier. Because it's easier to use the verb to be. Meanwhile, if someone wants to try to translate, I come back on Friday. I can give you the table for coming. So that was for going. I come, vengo, vieni, viene, veniamo, venite, vengono. Right. Perfect. Okay, so this is the conjugation for the verb to come and its translations in Italian. And this is the example. I come back on Friday. So it would be with vengo. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I made a mistake. ritorno. I used a different verb. This is the verb to come. We need the verb to return, which is not the same. Return. Oh yeah, because from come back I got confused. Return, returns, return, 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 and then ritorno, ritorni, ritorna, ritorniamo, ritornate, ritornano. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the verb that we need, right? I come back or I return translates to ritorno. Ritorno. And here, back to our sentence. Ritorno a venerdì. Okay, so this is an attempt. Well done. Tornato, is tornato the same? Yes, I don't know what you mean by the same. Tornato is perfect. Tornato, ritornato is exactly what we need for the past participle. So, let's do it in the present first. So this is in the present. I come back on Friday. So I'm talking about the future. So on Friday, I come back. And this is I came back on Friday. So I'm telling you, maybe it's Sunday today. Well, it is. And I'm telling you, I came back on Friday. So the past. So ritorno venerdì. And interesting to know that in this case, we don't even need the preposition, right? If it's, just a day of the week, you can just say ritorno venerdì, ritorno lunedì, arrivo mercoledì. You don't have to say il or sul. There's no preposition needed in this case. I come back Monday. I come back Friday. That's basically how you can translate. Ritorno venerdì. Now, ritornato the same, torno, ritornato, tornato. Oh, I see. Okay. Right. So is tornato the same as ritornato? Yes. Yeah, I didn't understand the question at first. Yeah. Sono tornato, sono ritornato. Yeah, I would say they actually are the same. I never thought about it. But they are the same. One is perhaps less formal. Obviously, the shorter version being the less formal one. So, torno venerdì. That also works. I think in books you will find ritorno more often. But in spoken Italian, feel free to use torno. Torno venerdì. It's clear. I come back on Friday. How about the past simple or the past? Ritornato is the past participle. In this case, sono ritornato venerdì. Sono ritornato. So it's not ho ritornato. Sono ritornato. This is the important thing. So let's just highlight this, make it super apparent that we oh, interesting. It thinks it's an error and it suggests tornato. I'll stick to ritornato, but they're both absolutely fine. So let's just write it down. Sono tornato venerdì. They're definitely both words that exist, and they're both common. Sono ritornato, sono tornato. If we don't have any questions, we can jump literally onto the very last exercises. And I think today has been a pretty good session, fairly easy. Okay, so let's do it. They jump. In this case, jump is saltare. They jump. Do we have any questions? Tornato. Thank you, Amedeo. Bene, bene. Yes, I didn't understand the question at first, but it was a really good question. Really good question. I wasn't even thinking about the other version of the verb, which might be even more common. We can put it into the Google, I'm not going to do it now, but you can put it into the Google Trends whenever you're not, or Reverso. Reverso is also very good. And I know Mark is using it as well, to figure out if one word is the most common one or the other. That doesn't make it right, but it's often a good indication that one word is completely right or completely wrong. In this case, though, it wouldn't help because they're both common. They jump. Saltano. Saltano. This is completely regular. Salto, salti, salta, saltiamo, saltate, saltano. So this is just an are type verb. It becomes more interesting when we look at the past. They jumped. Then we're going to say hanno saltato. No, we say sono saltati. It is an interesting example. So this is an interesting example. I left it at the end because in certain situations, in certain scenarios, you can have the double version. So it can be to have something or to be something, depending on whether you're using it in a way that's transitive or intransitive. So the reason why verbs of motion have the verb to be in front and not the verb to have is because they are intransitive. We talk about this. It means that they don't have an object. There is a subject, there is a predicate, a verb, an action, but there is no object, right? If you say, I eat pizza, there is a subject, I, eat, the action, pizza is the object. When you say, I go, or I go to Rome, you don't have an object. So these verbs that never have an object are intransitive. And so in the past simple, we go to be, past participle, instead of to have. If the verb can be used in a transitive way or intransitive way, then depending on how it's used, it's going to have in front or to be. This is one scenario. Hanno saltato. So for example, I could say hanno saltato la scuola. So they have skipped school. So they skipped school. They jumped school. They didn't go to school when they were supposed to. In this case, we use avere. Hanno saltato. Because they skipped something. So there is an object. So the verb is used in a transitive manner. But if I want to say they jumped, as in they jumped from a wall, they themselves jumped, then sono saltati giù dal muro. Okay? Giù dal muro. This is a little bit more difficult. That's why I left it at the end. The other two examples are very simple. You ran, sei corso, and again we can have also hai corso. For example, hai corso un rischio. You run the risk. In this case, you run something. Sei corso via. You ran away. You ran away. You didn't run away anything. You yourself ran away. They fell. Sono caduti. Sono caduti giù. So they fell down. Or hanno caduto. Hanno caduto. No. Hanno caduto. No. That's stupid. Just sono caduti. So to fall, yeah, I cannot think of a way to make it transitive. No. You can think for yourself and let me know in the comments if you find a way to make to fall transitive. To fall something. I don't think you can fall anything. Yeah, and that's the reason why you use the verb to be. So I hope that everything is clear. We've run through a bunch of examples today, and I think this is a very interesting topic. Becomes difficult, but then it becomes easy again immediately after you realize that the logic is quite binary. It's very rare that we have situations in which you would be confused with all this in mind. So remember, transitive, intransitive. And if a verb can be both, then it's going to be either, depending on how it's used in that context. And you'll find native speakers sometimes will there's going to be situations, very rare situations, where a native speaker gets it wrong. It uses one or the other. I don't know if it's healthy for me to speak about this. Yeah, for example, there is a wall and these kids are jumping off the wall, and you could say they jumped. Sono saltati. But you might find native speakers saying hanno saltato. And that's technically wrong. And it might confuse you, but it's not a big deal. I mean, if you are aware of why there are two forms and which one is correct, then it doesn't matter if you hear the wrong one, because you just know that, okay, the guys, it's just picked it up wrong when they were kids. Some people say that. Hanno saltato. No, that's wrong. Sono saltati. All right. Bene. Direi che siamo arrivati alla fine della sessione. Congratulazioni ad essere ancora vivi. So, congratulations. You're still alive. And this session has been quite difficult. It's been quite tricky because we are talking about something specific to Italian. It's a grammatical topic, concept that's specific to Italian. And so you can only learn it. You can't just immediately understand it, because it's yeah, it's a bit different. I hope that it's clear now. If it's not, feel free to ask questions to me or anyone in my team. You can text me, DM me, or comment below the video. Chat, you've been great, especially Mark, who's done basically all of the work today. Mark, sei ancora vivo? Oh, Anthony, great class. Thank you. Amedeo Fiore, grazie, grazie. Spero vi sia piaciuta. Let me know if it's too difficult or if it's too easy, and I can always sort of tailor it to the audience, although this audience is pretty good, and we've gone through quite a few difficult sessions in the past few weeks, so good stuff. Feel free to check out italianmastery.com and study Italian. I will see you in the next session. That's going to be next Sunday. Buona domenica, ci vediamo alla prossima, grazie a tutti. Ciao ciao.